Anybody? Isaiah chapter 50. He said, this is, I don't know how many of us are willing this night to learn. This was said before he came down. This was said before the foundation of the world. God had already prepared that it shall be this. Because justice and righteousness and holiness demand that every sin be punished according to the degree of the criminality of that sin. Come, if you're a member of this fellowship, you must learn how to listen, not be looking up and down. That's how you know unbelievers who don't know what is going on. Justice demands that every sin be punished. And the frightening thing here is that every sin be punished according to the degree of the criminality of that sin. What does that mean? If in having sex with a girl, with a woman, you pass on HIV virus to her, and she dies, you are now guilty of murder plus adultery. If her children become wayward because they had no mother to take care of them, and they also begin to sleep with men, if they contact any venereal disease, which they pass on to their boyfriends, and their boyfriend pass the same to their girlfriends, and their girlfriend pass the same thing to their boyfriend, when God will judge you, he will find out how many people were affected by that one sin. If the children also died of the same sickness, how many of them died? If they passed the same sickness to their boyfriends, how many of the boyfriends died? If they passed the same to married men who passed the same to their wives, how many of them were affected? I don't know whether you understand. It will be a difficult thing for you to be punished for all those who are affected by your sin. If you stole somebody's money, a man from my home worked for Union Bank. After 30 years service, retired. They gave him money, paid him for his services. A man came and took the money from him and said to him, I'll make you a multimillionaire in 3 months' time. And that man disappeared. This man from my village died of a broken heart. Because he was dead, the children became wayward. In fact, one of them worked here in Uyo as a staff of Union Bank. But later, began to push cocaine. Later, she died in her business of pushing her drugs. Can you now see that man who made the father to die has also caused the girl's death? And who knows how many people the girl affected with her hard drugs? When God will judge, if you remain an unbeliever, you have to pay for all those people who died on account of that one sin of stealing from that man. That's what we call the degree of the criminality of your sin. Now, as a girl, if you run after a married man, and the man abandons the wife and begins to marry you, and the wife becomes hypertensive and dies on that account, you give account of that. You have committed murder. And if her children become wayward because their mother had been displaced and their father no longer loves them, whatever happens to those children, you give account of that also. Therefore, there is no way that God can just say, hey, you are forgiven, go home. No. You must give account. Or somebody must die in your place. And that's what Jesus did. He died in your place. But it is yours to accept it and say to him, you died because of me. Therefore, I will live for you. I will live the rest of my life for you. I will obey you no matter the cost. When God in 1972 asked me to relocate to Uyo, Uyo was not my best option. Uyo was a big village. My friends were sent by God to America, to London, to Lagos. No, it's not my will, but God's will be done. Where I was working before I came into full-time ministry, they paid me more than I could even manage. As a result, I never cooked. I would just go to a hotel and pay and sign. For 1 month, I would not cook because I have surplus money. But God said, no, stop that, follow me. It is not your will, but His will that you ought to adhere to. So do I have anybody here? The Bible says He laid His back for them to strike Him and wound Him in your place. One more time, let me ask, do I have anybody here who will say, based on what I've seen and heard this night, I'm going to rededicate myself unto God? Both in witnessing this night, I'm going to rededicate myself unto God. Both in witnessing, both in living holy life, both in serving God. And that will include what I do with my money and how I relate to others. Do I have anybody here who will say to God this night, I promise to rededicate myself to you. Everything you ask of me, I shall do it. Can I have you raise up your hands, so people? Raise it very well. Raise it very well. God bless you. Let's hear